Well, Ken and I are standing here under the counter of the schooner that we've been building, and people have been asking us actually why it's been quite a while since we put out a few videos, and all I can say is the excuse is life. Life gets you going in different directions, and we've had other things to do and stuff like that. So, it's not like it's stopped. Ken's been putting these planks on here. We've planked it up really to the magic line, and there's just different things about the boat here and stuff I'd like to say. I don't know. Ken must want to add something to this. I'm sure of it.
Well, just to let you know that I haven't been vacationing in Bali with my Australian friends. I've been pretty much here working on it. Part of it is just the time it takes to keep videos coming and keep the work on the boat moving forward. But we're back at it. We're going to start again, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We're going to try to get on a regular schedule. And but for right now, what we'd like to do is I'm going to let Lou take you through the boat, see what's been done since we shot the last video, which was months ago, and show you the progress, and then move on and start showing what we're doing next.
Perfect. Let's do it. Well, like I say, it hasn't stopped, and we're not going to stop and start cutting the boat up. It's just going to be worked on until it's complete. So, I want to go over a little bit of what's been done so far. I think there's been a video made of us patterning these planks. These planks back aft here, this being the garboard, and these I would call the broad strakes right here. And, I told you that it's got 3 5-inch broad strakes in it up forward, but they actually broaden up as you get back aft. So, it's got the garboard, 3 broad strakes, and then these particular planks right here, I've got 2 into 1 because we needed to cover some more ground here, cover some extra ground. So, that's the way that's done. We've got 1 plank right here past the magic line right now, and we're going to go into a whole different system of the way we cut the planks, because all the planks from here up are identical other than the bevel. So we're going to make a full-length pattern to cut these planks. It's a little bit different than it's been done in the past, I think. I've cut lots of planks and done a lot of progressive beveling work on planking, but I've never made a full-length pattern of any of the planks. So Ken and I kind of refined the system a little bit, and I think it's going to be really, really impressive. There's a few other things right here I could show you while we're here, just because we're standing here. We fastened these planks on with temporary fasteners. These are like construction screws, and I wouldn't recommend everybody does this. The reason why we're able to do it is we have plastic frames, and these screws do not get stuck in the frames. They don't break off. If you're using oak frames or something like that, you'd have to be very generous about the size of the hole that you drill, because if you jam that screw in that hole awful tight, it's liable to break off when you're taking it out. But I'll give you a little demo here of how easy it is to get these screws in and out. So we know that no matter where we go with these screws, they're going to come out. The big advantage to that is that we don't have to worry about how deep we're sinking the heads or anything. We're just leaving the heads on the surface. We'll back all those screws out. We'll hollow the hull out, spare it, and do everything we want all the way around the outside curves or the inside. And then it's a great opportunity to sink all the fasteners exactly the same depth, and I can show you that the size of the fastening we're going to put in is it's a 2-inch number 14 straight slot bronze wood screw, and the holes will have to be re-drilled. The holes for these screws aren't quite big enough, so that's no problem. We back those out, hollow it out, sink the screws the right depth, and the screws. This is a great system because the hull's not even really going to get wet. It's going to be sealed up on the outside. It's got glue in between 2 layers on the inside, and it's going to be sealed up on the inside. So the advantage of it is that the planking doesn't conduct electricity. It hasn't soaked up a bunch of salt. If it was just water or fresh water, it doesn't conduct electricity anyhow. But So what's going to happen here is these number 14 screws will probably last as long in this boat as a number 20 would in a boat that had oak frames, or a boat that's single planked, because there's a lot of soaking up of water there and a lot of conductivity of electricity. This way here, we don't have that problem. So it's got kind of a nice system to double plank. This planking, like I said, when you look at the boat after we're done with this layer, it'll look very traditional because it's a Carvel plank system that's been used a million times. In this particular boat, it's Carvel over strip. The strip plank is going to go like this, and the Carvel plank is going like this. So it's slightly biased to each other, which makes an incredibly stiff hull. I don't want to have, we didn't want to have put diagonal strapping in it and all those things, because basically the diagonal strapping that's been seen in boats over the years that really worked out well was a whole different program about how that strapping was put in and different things. So this was our answer to getting a nice stiff hull and a nice tight hull. And I think when you take a look at this when it's been hollowed out and rounded out, you're not going to believe how tight the seams are. They're just perfectly tight. You can't put human hair between them. That's how tight they are. And that's done right off the saw. No fitting. No planes, no fitting. We don't put the plane on edge and plane the edges to bevel and all that. What we've done is we've come up with a system that requires a little bit more coordination maybe, and in its early stages maybe a little bit more understanding and things like that. But in the later stages, it's going to save tremendous amounts of work, because we're going to make one pass with a saw. The plank is done. We don't have to bevel it. We don't have to do anything. We can pick it up and put it on. So, we're looking forward to that all the way around the top sides, and it's a progressive bevel sawn, edge set planking. So that's where we're going next. We're going to show you how to cut the pattern and how we took some of the measurements and things like that, and that's what we're up to. Well, I'm up forward here now on the starboard side, and there's a few things I wanted to go into right here about the line-off lines, really, is what I wanted to talk about. We're planked up to the magic line right here. This was the line that we generated with the string. And there's different ways to generate a magic line. On this boat, it worked really well with the string. And the whole idea of it is to, to get a jump on the way it's all going to go. And the magic line is what does it. So we generated that first with a string. It can be generated in different ways, like I said, on the bench, on a half model, upside down, depending on if you wanted to have like a hump in the magic line like this. You can't stretch a line and get a hump. You can get a sag, but that doesn't even work either, because the line will sag off of the hull. So the only way you can generate a magic line in a hull like this is to have the hull or the line taut. And that's what we've done, and it worked out well. It doesn't work out on all boats exactly the same. So what I wanted to show you here is that at the sections of the boat where the boat was built, like right here, they're in between the frames, So we've divided it from the magic line to the shear at the sections, that we built the boat over. These would be the molds or the sections, right? And then we've divided it in between, so you got 3 feet between sections, and right in between is one of the frames. So we divided it at the sections, and we divided it at the frames in between the sections. Now, they're like 18 inches apart. I think it was actually a little closer than it had to be. It could have been 3 feet apart, and we'd had the whole thing work just as well. But, this is going to be the whole test of the whole system. Not that we need to test it. It's just going to be a culmination of all the things we've thought up and what we're going to do about it and how we're going to go about it. So, right here I'm standing, like I said, up forward. I just wanted to show you this as well. These are the bolts that hold the strap floor timbers in that we put under the foremast step, because we wanted the foremast to be nice and low, the way the interior works out and everything. That mast step has to be quite low. This is as low as we could possibly get it with these strap floor timbers. So that's just something that's going on in this area before we planked over it, because those strap floor timbers are only bolted to the inside layer of planking. Now we're going to plank right over them, so you'll never see them again. And I think that's actually the best way we could have gone about it, the strongest way we could possibly go about it. And, so we're looking forward to a really great results with that. From the magic line up, there's 19 planks. 19 planks. They all taper at the end. They're a little wider in the middle than they are at the end because the division, was a longer distance at the center of the boat than it is at the end. So, we're making this one pattern that's going to be able to cut all these planks. I would call it a saw pattern because it's not a pattern to just transfer marks or something like that. It's a pattern that we can use to actually saw out the other planks on the bench. So that's something that we're going to be showing you. Today we're going to show you how to cut the pattern actually, and some things about cutting the pattern out, but we're not going to show cutting the planks today. That'll be in the next video. Well, let's talk about this pattern that we're going to be making here now. We had to go to Home Depot aisle 5 to pick this stuff up. This is a sheet of plywood 43 feet long. They don't have a lot of it, but we've got everything they had right here. So this is a different type of pattern, really, than you've seen, or I've ever seen, really. It kind of resembles this thing about track saws these days, where the saw follows the track. Well, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to use this as a saw pattern, what I would call a saw pattern. We're going to make it the right width everywhere we want it to be, and we're going to cut it out, and we're going to follow that pattern with a saw. We're going to apply that pattern on top of the plank that we're going to cut, and we're going to tack it down, a few little different things that we're going to make a guide for it and different stuff. And basically we're going to follow that pattern with the saw, and it's going to cut it right out. Saves a lot of work because there's 19 planks to cut out. I don't think I want to pattern 19 planks. I don't even want to cut them freehand, following a line for 19 planks. I don't want to have them on edge and beveling the edges and guessing at it and all that other stuff with 19 planks. So we've come up with this system, and I think you're going to find out that it works really, really well. Well, we really didn't get 43-foot long plywood out of Home Depot, but we did buy 8-foot sheets, and we just ran it through the table saw to cut it to a nice straight thing. And the scoffs where we scoffed it together will cut with the same jig that we cut the plankings with. So, it's like a 12-to-1 scoff, and, they're put together nice and straight on the bench. So we got one nice and straight edge, or one nice, very nice straight edge, and the other edge is going to be kind of a curve. So we're going to take the widths off the boat, right? Say at this station, we're going to apply it right here. At this station, we'd apply it right here. So we've got a tape measure up there, and we drove a nail right at station number 8 and put a tape measure on it and draw it all the way back to the transom. And we've got another one on the bench, and where the measurement was, say it was 6 feet 8 inches, we can transfer it right here, 6 feet 8 inches, and we pick the width up and put it on the pattern. Now, the only difference is that when we pick this width up, that's the true width of the plank. But when we transfer it onto the pattern, we're going to make it so that our pair of dividers hangs past the pattern by about 1/2 inch, the thickness or the width that the saw cuts from the edge of the table. And so the pattern's going to be about 1/2 inch narrower than the planks actually are. You just very simply put the pattern down on the plank, line up the 2 straight edges, and cut. All right, now I want to tell you a little bit more about this transfer of measurements. Now, like I said before, we drove a nail in the hull at station number 8. That's a midships. And we stretched the tape in this direction aft. We've got some nails up here alongside the tape because otherwise the tape would want to go perfectly straight, and we want it to go around this curvature. So it's stretching around these nails, and to hold it up there, we just nailed through this piece of little plywood here, so you can pull the tape back and forth, but it stays up against the hull really nice. So the weight of the tape back aft is actually what's keeping it stretched. Then we've driven a nail on the pattern at station number 8, amidships, and we stretched the tape along the pattern like this. So what we're going to do is transfer the measurements of where the station lies as compared to station number 8 and transfer it onto the pattern. That way we'll know where to pick up our widths to transfer onto the pattern. Well, we've transferred the tapes from the after section to the forward section now. We're still terminating right here at station number 8. That's where we start. That's 0. So we've got the tape stretched out forward. We're going to use that tape for longitudinal measurements to come up with where the stations are. So where he reads the number, I'm going to read the same number right here on the bench and mark it right there and square it across. Once we've got all those longitudinal measurements, then we're going to take and pick up the widths at every single station.
So here we go.
All right.
So I'm at 7.5, and that's 1 foot 6.5.
1.6.5 right here. Yeah.
State.
I'm going to square it real quick, like, and then I get out of your way.
That's 7.5.
You know what? Yeah. Oh, 6.5. 1
7.5.
7.5?
7.5.
Oh my goodness, I'm off by a whole inch, man.
No, 6.5. It's 7.5. Is the station
Oh,
number.
7.5. So I was right. 6.5. Okay. 7.5.
Yep.
Okay, there you go.
All
This
right.
is just. All right.
So now I'm at 7, and that's 2 foot. 2 foot. Wow, I can't read it because I tacked my block over it. 3 feet. 3 feet. Exactly.
So what we're doing here now is we've taken the width of the plank at station 1.5. I'm going to transfer it to the pattern, but I want to make the pattern a 1/2 inch or so narrower than the plank is. So I put a little block right along there and another one sticking up. I can put my dividers in that little seam right there, see? And then I'll make it like just a little radius right here. That's all I need right there. Now we're going to hand it back to Ken.
Station number 2.
All right. This is the width at station number 2. There you go. Now I've scratched that into the pattern with the end of the dividers with no pencil. Now I'm just going to take my pencil and just accent that line a little bit so we don't get lost. Okay, as we go along here, widths are getting a little bit wider and a little bit wider because the width of the plank amidships is as wide as it gets and it tapers down in both directions. So, that's exactly what we're getting here. And I've got the dividers hanging over the plank by the width of the saw relief that we got, and I'm going to transfer that right there. Now that is station 5. Is that right, Ken?
You got me, Lou. I got lost.
Yeah.
I thought we were at
Seems
5.5.
like I got one right here. It's at 5.5 then.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's at 5.5.
All right, that's good then. You check it out real quick. I'm going to have this one right
That
here.
is 5.5.
Okay. 5.5 right here.
So I'm going to 6.
No, let me have the 5.5.
Oh.
It's still right
That's
there.
5.5.
Okay. Here you go. 6, coming up for 6. All right, we're back at the bench here now, and we've made these 2 lengths that we're going to use for patterns right here, but we're only going to cut one out first. The first one we're going to cut out, we're going to slide right back here on the bench like that, and we're going to tack a batten along those lines that we put on there, the widths, and we're just going to use this one to support the saw when we're cutting. So let's take a batten like this one.
Just use this one.
You want to use that one?
Yeah, I don't think we need that.
Okay.
We know
Go down this end. Straighten up. Well, that's just at the humps, right? Yeah. Yep. These are good here, though. All right, so we're nailing the batten down on the marks every 3 feet. That would be at the building stations. And sometimes we just have to back it up with a little piece of wood so it doesn't bounce when we nail it. And we're just going to get it right on those lines. It doesn't still, you have to slip it under there a million miles is what you got to do, like that. Yeah.
Let's put another nail down here in this.
Sure. So now we can take a look at that batten and see what kind of curve is in it. It's got a gentle curve in it. Well, we're just about to make our first cut on our saw pattern here. So, you know, we've got a batten tack down here on the lines that we've made. This saw is going to cut about a ½ an inch away from the batten, and that will make that batten exactly the right width. So let's try it out here.
Rolling.
Okay. Well, what we've got here now is what I call a saw pattern. When we made this pattern, this edge of it was perfectly straight, one end to the other, 43 feet long. And we took different widths and we've cut this edge to a taper. So it tapers down in that direction and it tapers down in the other direction from station 8. So now, in order to use this thing, really, all we have to do is just push it over till it lines up with a perfectly straight edge of a plank that we're going to put underneath it like that. You pick up the saw and you cut it, and it cuts a ½ an inch wider than the saw pattern, which should fit perfectly on the boat. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Our next process would be to cut some of this planking out, and we would straighten this edge perfectly first, nail that pattern right on that very edge, and cut. Now, if we put it up there and we weren't pleased with it, say it went over the line and we didn't like the looks of it, well, that means that we can just adjust it by moving the pattern there. If we move the pattern like that, it makes this plank cut narrower. If we move the pattern this way, it makes this plank cut wider. So it's an adjustable setup, really, and it's pretty simple to use. You know, sometimes when you're doing something like this, when you're first getting started, it could be a little confusing, even to the person who thought it out. So, and that would be me. So, yes, we had a little tiny bit of confusion as we went about it here, but I think we've gotten over that. And from that point on, it should be getting mighty easy.